So, let's dive in. Cardio versus strength for fat loss.
I'm loving your announcer voice. Alright, shall we differentiate between fat loss and weight loss, because they're actually two different things?
Definitely. So, when you're talking about fat loss or even body fat percentage, you're talking about how much, again, body fat you have. So, weight loss is different. That is literally the numerical number you see on this scale. So, for instance, you can lose weight and not necessarily have reduced your body fat percentage, because you could be dehydrated, you could have lost muscle mass. So definitely important to differentiate between the two. Typically when someone says I want to lose weight, they want a change in body composition. They want to see a more, I don't like the term toned, but like a more defined physique. And while it might seem kind of mind-blowing or very counterintuitive, you may actually see the weight or the scale go up, because in order to get that defined, toned look, you're actually going to need to put muscle on and then, reduce that body fat percentage. So, the muscle is more, again, deliberate, defined, and shows through a little bit more. It gives you that, again, don't like the term, but sculpted look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important. When I did my powerlifting comp, that was a weight loss journey, not a fat loss journey, because I was dehydrating myself just to make the weight. Whereas fat loss is you're actually seeing a change in your body composition for long term, whereas weight loss is a very short term goal as well. When it comes to either, we're going to focus on fat loss in this episode. So if you need cardio or strength training for fat loss, we're going to touch on some of the cardio benefits and then also some of the strength training benefits. So when it comes to cardio, everyone is I feel like cardio is a bit of a love-hate relationship, and sometimes gets a really bad rap, and everyone's like, nah, you don't need cardio at all. And then other people are like, no, we just do cardio. That's all I need. But there are really, really great benefits to cardio training as well. And one of them is your heart health, for example. It's really important to, if we're thinking about longevity of training, that we're not just focusing on looking great, but also feeling great and long-term change. So I think heart health is a really important benefit of cardio training.
It's always what belief system or what team do you belong to, isn't it? It's there's these people that are hardcore weight training only, and then there's the cardio only, and it's almost it's actually a balance, really.
Yeah.
And then it's also relative to age. Are you going to be at an age where you probably do have to have a bit more balance, maybe a little bit more heart focus, cardiovascular focus? Or are you younger? Are you a hard gainer? You really do need to focus on weight training a little bit more. It's so varied.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the other benefits that people might forget, while it applies to both strength and cardio training, but cardio in particular, I find is a really good mental game and a really good stress outlet. So for me, boxing, for example, is my cardio. And then also going for a run, I do that when I really need to switch off. I need to put my headphones in, turn on the music, and I can go for a run, and it's a really good mental outlet, where I don't get this same mental outlet in the gym. It's a different mental outlet that helps with reducing stress and improving mental health. But I feel like running or cardio, depending on what cardio you want to do as well, is a really good stress relief for me, at least.
Definitely, and you really touched on enjoying what you're doing. So again, I think when you hear cardio, you think of it I think when you think cardio, there's just an image of a treadmill in your head, and it that's great too. Maybe you love that, and that's awesome. Some people might be a bike, some people might be rowing, some people might be boxing. So it's about finding really a movement that you like to do, and each type of movement is going to offer something different. I can definitely relate. Cardio is definitely something that I can just switch off. I don't have to really focus or think, versus maybe some of the lifts that maybe get a little more technical, and I have to think about all these different components like the brace, and are almost more mentally exhausting sometimes.
100%.
But with cardio, I hate to say, it's it can be a little monotonous, except for boxing, there's a lot of combos. I'd say that's pretty mentally stimulating too. So it definitely depends. Ultimately, we want to, if we can, be doing something that we like to do, but there's a fun beautiful dance between the two.
What do you guys do for cardio?
Usually something that's easy. I was doing some boxing before my injury. Cycling, I'm still not quite there yet. I've been able to do like small intervals of stairs. Nothing like high intensity yet though.
So more steady state type? Like
At this time, I would say in general, I like more of the fast pace. Like, I don't like, but
I prefer.
I feel almost more accomplished when doing like, you know, hill sprints and things like that, because it's also really fast and done versus, so if I had a choice between, you know, intervals of like 10 hill sprints, I'd rather do that than 45 minutes of cardio, just because, you know, it's just one thing 10 times versus when I'm doing like 45 minutes, something's like, okay, I have 5 minutes 9 times.
Yeah,
and
I
then
do the same. The maths in your head. Oh, awful.
Yeah. It's like over and done with way sooner.
Way faster. So it's a little more uncomfortable, but I get it done faster.
I'm 100% with you. In my usual training, because my goal isn't fat loss at the moment, I usually only utilize steps. So having a step count, making sure that I'm active because I'm sitting a lot on a desk working, making sure that I move, and stepping, walking is all the cardio I do. But then when it comes to like extra cardio training, and when the goal is fat loss or the goal is to get the cardiovascular health up, then I 100% give me an assault bike and assault bike sprints any day over an hour on a treadmill or just Stairmaster or any of those other machines. Like, no thank you. Much prefer hill sprints, much prefer getting it over and done with nice and quick. So much easier, I feel like, on the mental system. And just, in and out, that's me. But if I have in my program and it says 45 minutes of anything, I'm like, no thank you. Can't do it.
Yeah, I take a bit from CrossFit in terms of having some sort of measurable outcome. So it might be a short burst of, 10 minutes, but I'm working on a reverse pyramid of 3 exercises and I only have to do 10 minutes. If it's not something hard, like in terms of a hard number that I'm aiming for, I will easily talk myself out of it. Even if I want to do something that's 20 minutes or half an hour of something that's kind of a pace of jogging, I have to have some sort of metric, because the whole entire time I'll be sitting there like, I think 15 minutes is enough. I think that's all right. And the metric I'll use for that is a heart rate zone. So I'll have a look and, having I want to stay within zone 2. And just having that mental focus of making sure I'm not going beyond or underneath, it's enough to distract me. So I need some, I'm with you guys. I hate something that, is really long-winded and...
Unless it's a walk. Like an hour walk with the headphones on and a podcast or with a friend, fine. But an hour running, don't get me started.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Even like indoor, outdoor, I always thought, I think it's the problem is that I'm on the treadmill and I'm in the one place and I don't really get to see anything. And then I go outside, and obviously the mechanics of, belt running versus you actually powering yourself outside, completely different. And I'll be like, oh, this is only 3k, I don't know what it is in miles, I'm so sorry, but it's only 3k, it should only be 20 minutes, but halfway through I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can just cut across and that'll be enough for today. So yeah.
It's an interesting thing because it's so much a mental game. It always comes down to like, what kind of hard do I want to do? There's also times where the 10-minute sprint, that doesn't sound so good, and I'm like, I'm not ready for that kind of hard. So I can see, like, I'm starting to think back, I'm like, there are times where maybe I would opt for the longer version because I just know it's going to be physically less strenuous in its own way. Having the podcast on, something that I'm like, okay, I'm super stoked to listen to this already. It's like, how can I distract myself as much as possible, or get my mind into, not realizing that this is crappy.
For me, and when we take it back to running, it's running with a friend. When I'm by myself, I talk myself out of the first K. Like, if I reach first K, I'm like, oh, I think I'm done here. If I'm running with someone, I'm much more ambitious and match their tempo, and I will actually get it done, because I feel like running is such a mental game anyway. Or I set myself a goal of either 25 minutes or 5Ks. and usually it takes me longer to get to 5Ks, so I'll run faster and make it more exciting to actually get there. And that helps, like, having battles with myself. But otherwise, yeah, I would talk myself out of, like, 2Ks feel hard and, like, I'm done here.
I'm in the reverse. If I run with someone, I wimp out so easily. If I'm by myself, I'm better at seeing it to the end. And I think this is like me making an excuse for myself. But obviously everyone I know or am close to are taller than me. And so as soon as we start running and they start picking a pace, I'm already like psyching myself out. I'm like, my legs are shorter, my levers are shorter. That means I have to take way more steps just to do their one step. And I'm like, so their pace is way too fast. Am I like going like too fast for my own pace? And then after a while, I'll be like, no, you go off on your own. Like, I need to go. Yeah, I'm so the opposite.
Interesting. I'm so hyper competitive.
I was going to say that too.
That whoever you team me up with, I'm going to run just as fast as them.
Yeah, the mental game is so important because exact same thing. Like, I'm running a Rocky montage in my head. Like, when I'm running, like, you know what I mean? I remember super like years ago, I used to go to the gym super duper early, and there was this like sort of like underground parking, and I like in my mind I'd have my hood on, I'd have my earphones on, I would just imagine I was coming out of like, you know, like the cave or whatever, like they were about to call me in, like I don't know, I forgot what that little wind tunnel thing that boxers come out like, like that's just what I imagine I was coming out of.
Gangsta Nick's in the house.
Yeah, literally just psyching yourself up.
Yeah.
It's you gotta be your own cheerleader.
100%.
Yeah.
One of the other benefits with cardio is we touched on running already, but it's just so easily accessible for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the entry level to start with something like cardio for fat loss is a lot lower. So when people are first thinking about losing weight or losing fat or changing their body composition, it seems like it's an easy entry. You don't really need any equipment. All you need to do is like go outside and get moving. So I think that's one of the other benefits, and it is so versatile. Like, you can go on the bike, like you said, you can run, you can do your own circuits and whatever works for you. So I think while it sometimes gets a bad rep, there's also a lot of positives when it comes to cardio. But then when it comes to changing your body and changing your physique and changing your body image, like you touched on, getting that sculpt, quote unquote, scalp look, you need strength training. If you are just doing cardio, you're gonna maybe lose fat, but you won't really change your physique to an extent that you can do it with strength training, because you actually need to build the muscle to create the shape. If you're just running or if you're just doing cardio, you won't create the shape. You will look slimmer, but you're just going to be like a slimmer version of what you've been before, rather than shaping your physique and body.
It also takes longer, I think, to get to where you want to be, if you're just going to stick to cardio or if you're just going to stick to weight training only. But one thing that I used to do, and I definitely don't do it now, but early days it would be to ask people what they're, when they say, oh, I want to change, you know, my aesthetic look, I want to change my body composition, I want weight loss or fat loss, I would ask them, what image do you have in your head? Like, can you Pinterest an image of what you're talking about? Especially with females who would say, I don't want to look bulky. And then when you ask them what picture they have in their head, and you almost have to sit there and say, actually, there is an element of weight training that you need to realistically get to here. And it would almost be like an interesting way to get them to change their perception on the whole thing, because a lot of them would be like, I just need to do circuits, I just need to do cardio, I want to do that with you. But then you would sit there saying, so you want me to watch you do cardio?
Exactly.
Like, is that what you want? It was also a way to begin the discussion about how you need to change your perception of what weight training is.
My favorite argument to give to someone who comes in and they're unsure about strength training and they're unsure about if they're lifting weight is that when you are training and you're building muscle, your metabolic rate goes up, so you are burning more calories when you're resting. Mind blown. And that usually gets them, they're like, oh my god, that's possible. I'm like, yeah, totally. This is exactly how it works. There's a bit more science to that, but it's one of the leading arguments when someone comes and they're scared of getting bulky and whatnot.
I think also on the argument of needing strength training to help people change their perception of what they need to do, most commonly being seen through the female population, is doing cardio, which does take a little bit longer for you to get your goals. That amount of time that it takes, it can be quite disengaging after a while. Realistically, you can have metrics. You can have cardiovascular metrics, heart zone stuff, metabolic rate stuff, and you can test that along the way. But just doing that all the time, it can get boring, and
it's very repetitive.
100%. Whereas the strength training, and I know we've touched this on another episode way back when, but strength training is somewhat more fulfilling, especially when you are getting stronger, or you're discovering capabilities that you didn't even know were possible. I think that's what helps you also stay engaged as well. But yeah, I've had those clients where they were doing strength training, and because body composition was probably not changing in line with their muscle tissue development, they were just thinking, oh my gosh, that's me getting bulky. And you have to sit there and say, no, it's just composition, it's not really bulk per se. I don't know, have you guys had a few of those scenarios?
Definitely came across scenarios like that, but I think what people forget as well is longevity. And I don't know about you guys, but I just want to be a badass strong grandma one day. And I don't want to have all the injuries, and I don't want to have relying on other people to help me all the time. So for me, the ultimate goal with strength training is not just the fat loss, but also being able to lift more, being able to lift my groceries, being able to go upstairs, being able to walk for longer periods of time. And the more muscle you build now, especially for females who are in that area where they are with their hormones, we produce progesterone, we produce estrogen, just side tangent here, but we need to make the most of this now so that we can be that strong ass grandma in the future. So I think strength training is so important for more than just fat loss, but also not forgetting about longevity. Looks and all that is great, and just imagine you're the old grandma and you probably don't care about your fat loss goals anymore, but you have built up this stamina and the strength within you to reach anything you want to do, and then you don't care about looking bulky anymore.
I think also when you have your clients, and you have such varied people that you're training with different age, different life experiences, it's always the older people that say, I wish when I was younger I just started then. Because it's so much harder, but it's even harder for women around that pre-menopause, post-menopause age, where your hormones aren't optimal for muscle building or bone density maintenance or building, and it is very much harder. But it's always you can never, unless you walk a day in the shoes, it's really hard to comprehend for the younger generation, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely.
Sharing out of your own experiences, what does your training or cardio strength training split look like?
It's currently predominantly strength training. I'm currently in a growth phase.
Lucky you.
But I think you shared some of your program, and I just look at the volume that you have in a session, and I'm like, that looks like it's gonna become cardio, maybe in the first quarter or even the first half.
Definitely there are some components, and that's what's so interesting, because I think when you say cardio, people, again, you see the treadmill in your head, so you can be doing cardio, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on a treadmill or running. If that's what you like to do, then absolutely do it. Cardio can also be in the way of using pump mode, and it's there's so many different ways to get that. So currently I'd say it's definitely primarily strength training. There's an aspect of cardio just in the sheer volume of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Casey's got you working
Yeah,
hard.
Casey's it's his revenge from the squat challenge. So
Yeah, I think without being too scientifically here as well, it just depends on what energy system you're using throughout your session as well.
Right.
If you're doing a 2-hour session,
yeah.
you are going to use that energy system that you're going to get if you're going for an hour run as well. So it is kind of different. Then if you're going for your 1 rep maxes, you're using a different energy system that relies on different fuel sources. So it just depends on the goals and your training style as well. So you don't have to go for a 2-hour run. You can also do Nikka's crazy volume workouts
for 3 hours at the gym or something. But even if you strip back what is cardio, it's basically your body pumping blood around your body as efficiently as possible. So yes, it uses the lungs because there's a transfer of oxygen into carbon dioxide and whatnot to keep that going. But really, the reason why you end up getting cardio in a high volume session like yours, like I say yours because I look at that and I'm like, I'm never going to do that. But in those instances, like your body needs that efficient flow of blood oxygen in order to replenish your muscles so that it can keep transforming energy and keep you like repping out rather than fatiguing and slowing down. It's so critical for that, and that's why we say, even though cardio is treadmill and that's what people think it is, it's actually your heart just pumping blood in order to keep up with what you're trying to get out of your body.
It's so funny you bring up like the efficiency component of it, because when the pandemic happened, my training really took a hit. Like I really just wasn't doing anything. I got so good at knowing what was on Netflix and like every single streaming platform, like no lifting, no nothing. I got very, very comfortable doing that, and my momentum to train really dropped off, and getting back into that was a bit of a struggle. So I remember the first time I taught a class, it was this like crazy, it hit me real hard because I was like, I didn't realize how hard it was to talk and train at the same time, and I was already pretty unconditioned in the training department.
Respect to us coaches.
Yeah, I know. In the training department, so having to talk on top of that. So I remember the first bout when I first started training with Casey I said I need to build my my like aerobic capacity. So I would specifically do hill sprints and then try to read like sentences out loud and then see how much better I like. Thank you, Vitruvian, for making my like that's the reason why I like started doing cardio again. Was ultimately to be able to talk and be breathless at the same time.
Isn't that what Beyonce does? Like she runs on the treadmill and she sings while she's running, and that's how she can like
perform and
bust a move and like
so
still belt it out. That's what I heard.
Yeah, still got a long way to go, but
I just see your SBC like running and like starting to like sing.
Everyone's wearing headphones.
So
Nikka's here.
Need to turn on that noise cancelling mode.
Voice of an angel is back.
I just die when I sing. No, it's terrible. No, it's really not good.
I can't talk. I shouldn't be singing either. No.
I destroyed my larynx when I was teaching kickboxing. Even though at the gym that I was teaching it at, they gave microphones. HR gave microphones to try and longevity of your vocal cords. But coming from like a hardcore boxing gym, it was like you're used to the yelling and the the grittiness of that environment, and I just refused to put a microphone on because I was like, I'm so hardcore, and that just destroyed my larynx. And now I have to speak at a lower tone because if I go any higher like how I used to, it's just super crackly, and when I sing it's
please don't do it on the pod.
I think we all need to sing. Like we'll do a few lines just to see what we're all talking about.
La, la, la.
No one wants to hear mine. I refuse. Pass out. Time out. HR. No, I think bringing it back to what do you need for fat loss after our side tangents here. I personally believe a combination of both is really beneficial. Cardio does have its benefits, but strength training will get you there. And in the long run, if you're going for walks and you're getting your steps up and you keep your body moving, you will achieve fat loss without hours on a treadmill.
I vote for both.
Yeah.
Yeah, vote for both.
I
Yeah.
vote for both.
Agreed.
Okay.
And that you
Next.
don't have to just do like the machine cardio.
Yeah.
There's so many options. Just
can
get
be-
your heart rate up.
It can be so much more fun than just running on a treadmill for forever. So get that picture out of your head and start something else.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Make it fun.
Yeah, we've touched on almost, I think, every pod. It's about adherence, consistency, consistently sticking to whatever you're doing. And so if going for a run, you're like, I'm never going to do this again, that's not necessarily the
force
best way
yourself.
to adhere
Yeah.
to something. So finding something that you really, really enjoy.
I think that's an awesome way to wrap it up. Find exercise that you love doing.